So today I'm going to do my pick'ems for the playoffs of EMEA and Americas, and I'm going to tell you who I think will be making champions. Now we'll start with EMEA here, and this is, well, I'm currently on 115 points after the regular season, which is pretty good. It's up there. It's, decently done, I would say. Week 5 only got one wrong with Team Liquid KC there, but otherwise all correct. And so here is the bracket. For those of you who haven't seen the bracket thus far, this is what it is. It's Fnatic BBL, winner plays Heretics, Giants Navi, winner plays Liquid, Karmine Core and Vitality starting in the lowers. This is a pretty rough bracket, particularly for BBL. And let's start with this game, Fnatic versus BBL, because it is a pretty rough bracket for BBL. And what's interesting about BBL is they've been the gatekeeper team this entire year. Now, these two teams have only played once this season. That was in kickoff, and BBL did actually manage to win that game. But since then, BBL have just consistently been losing to Team Heretics and Liquid. They've played those two teams quite a few times throughout this season, and they just can't beat them. I just think that's going to continue because that's just what we've seen this entire year. The BBL are better than pretty much every other EMEA team, but just not quite as good as these three. So I'm going to start off by picking Fnatic there. Giants versus Navi. Navi, I think, are on a rise overall. Obviously, Ruxic, Hero, Alexic. They're all having, good games and playing well. And as a team, I think they're playing pretty well. Giants, actually, if I come just quickly, we'll put back in the pick. But if we come to the group stage, Giants actually finished 3-2, but had a -12 round differential. Okay, so everyone else who made the playoffs had a positive round differential. They had a -12. Interestingly, Fnatic only had a +11, which might surprise you somewhat. Actually, Fnatic didn't dominate nearly as much as you thought. Navi, for instance, have a higher round difference there, right? So, interesting. But I still will go Fnatic. And for that, I think, I highlighted that to kind of show, are Giants that great of a team, or did they win some close games, and then as soon as they played someone better than them, did they lose? I would say maybe it's more of the latter, and so I am going to pick Navi because I am very much on this Navi train. I'm liking where they're at as a team right now. Now, that in the lowers would give us BBL, KC, and Giants Vitality, and this is what I'm talking about, right? I would probably pick these two teams to beat these two teams. Yeah, it's a tough road for both these teams, and I do think either of them could win. KC, looked somewhat better against Team Liquid, with their roster move as well. But I am just still trusting in BBL. I still think that they've been that consistent, solid team, and I would just be quite surprised, honestly, if BBL went out straight away because they have consistently throughout the year been pretty good. Whereas Karmine Core have obviously been very much up and down. Giants versus Vitality. Again, I don't really trust either team too much. With Vitality, you never know who you'll get, really. But I'm going to say that Durka and Les will be able to carry them over the line against Giants there. Let's go with that. Team Heretics versus Fnatic. And I think my earlier point about Fnatic's round diff as well maybe somewhat shows that Fnatic, whilst they're still winning most of their games and looking, pretty decent for the most part. Apart from Alfia and Kayak every so often, right? Like, Kayak can have a good game. Alfia can have a good game. I feel like, the rest of it maybe hasn't been, I don't think Crashies has been on the form that he was maybe coming into Toronto. I don't think Chronicle's been playing that great overall. This maybe entire stage. And so I do think that Heretics right now are just in better form, right? I think Rienz is looking really good. I think Woot is looking pretty good. Even Benji these last couple of weeks, I think, has been starting to get into form as well. So I am going to go for Team Heretics in that one. Obviously, that should be a pretty good game overall. Then Team Liquid versus Navi. I'm actually going to go for the upset here. Obviously, we did just see Team Liquid lose to KC. But I'm feeling this Navi train. I'm going to go for the upset there. And I'm going to say that Fnatic will be able to beat Team Vitality because they're just a better team than Vitality overall. And then we'd get Team Liquid BBL, and as I've been saying, BBL, this would kind of be their nightmare because they're playing against a team, again, that they have just struggled to beat in VCT this entire year. And so I'm going to say that Team Liquid will beat BBL again. But I'm going to say Team Heretics will beat Navi. Team Liquid versus Fnatic. I'm going to actually say that Team Liquid will win that game. I'm going to say, again, close game, could go either way. I'm going to say Team Liquid win, then I'm going to say Team Liquid win that. But I'm going to say that Heretics win this grand final. Their first ever EMEA grand final. I am going to pick them to finally manage to do it. And so the 4 teams, therefore, I have going to champs from EMEA right now would be obviously Heretics, Liquid, Fnatic, who have already made it, and Navi would get in if they managed to get this far into the bracket as well over BBL. In fact, if I did have Team Liquid winning this game, which I'm sure a lot of you would, and Navi drop in here to maybe play against BBL, that game would probably determine who actually is going to champs. Like, straight up, that would be like a win and in, lose and out scenario, assuming that, you know, whoever played Vitality here beat them. So that could be a really, really interesting game if that does come to pass. Moving on to VCT Americas, and I'm on 110 points, which not quite as good as my EMEA, one game off, but again, this last week, apart from picking Furia to beat EG, which was a bit of a, you know, punt anyway, of hope, I got everything right. So a good week of pick'ems overall, but let's dive in. And again, for those of you who haven't seen the bracket, it's Lev C9, winner plays Sentinels, G2 100 Thieves, winner plays NRG, and then Crew and EG down here at the bottom. Lev Cloud9, obviously, here's the thing about Cloud9, right? They're impossible to get a read on because their group was so skewed, right? Their group here, Cloud9, they beat the 3 teams that are, you know, I mean, I might argue with Loud, these 3 plus Loud are the worst 4 teams in Americas, right? And Cloud9 managed to beat them. Good job. And then you lost to G2 and Sen, and, you know, neither game was really that close. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. So Cloud9 are just an impossible team to actually know where they stand up versus the middle of the pack. But I do think that Lev are on a rise right now, right? And even though Oxy is playing very well and has done this entire stage, that's the highest rated players in Americas as well. I just think the Lev are on a rise. And so I think the Lev will manage to beat Cloud9. The thing about picking Americas games is just keep it simple. Just whenever you get the chance, just pick G2 and Sen, because they're just way better than everyone else. And I suppose, like, Sen being Lev, I'm sure most of you would think, yeah, Sen are probably going to beat Lev. They're just better than Lev. And I'm sure most of you have that. We can talk a little bit about G2 and their run, because they are playing 2 teams that, on their good days, 100 Thieves and NRG, probably could, in a world, beat G2. Right? I don't think it's a guarantee that G2 win these games, but, I mean, I don't know if Leaf will play or not. If Leaf starts playing again, they probably won't. If Babybase playing, like, is there a world where 100 Thieves or NRG are good enough to beat them? Yeah, I do think that's possible, because I think they've shown on their good days that it is possible. 100 Thieves, their map pooled, I just don't think is good enough. And NRG, I think are just, again, a little bit too inconsistent overall. That will give us Cloud9 versus Crew and 100 Thieves EG. Let me just get the easy one out of the way, which is 100 Thieves being EG, because, yeah, EG I just think are really not a good team. And Crew Cloud9, look, I mean, if Cloud9 got to this spot, I mean, it is very Cloud9 to, you know, end up in this bracket. You lose the first game, you play, you know, a Crew team who could just turn up and out aim you. And I'm going to say that that's what will happen, and that Crew will win. Even though I haven't been impressed with Crew whatsoever, but it's just very Cloud9. You know, that they can't get like a gift of an EG, who I would feel very confident that Cloud9 would be EG. You know, it's just like very Cloud9 that they can't end up in that side of the bracket. That would give us NRG versus Crew. And as I said, even though I've got Crew beating Cloud9 there, I actually think that Crew have looked pretty poor for a lot of this stage. I really think, like, they've regressed in some meaningful ways. So I am going to go NRG for that one just there. Lev 100 Thieves, I mean, we've just seen this game and Lev won it. I don't really see why I would change my mind here. So I'm going to go Lev again to win that one. But I do think that Sen, I'm kind of hedging my bets. Like, if Leaf doesn't play, Sen should be favored. Even if Leaf does play, Sen might still win. Right, so I'm kind of just hedging my bets so that Sen will win that one. NRG versus Lev. I'm gonna say NRG will beat Lev there, to be honest, and end their run at Leviathan. And the grand final, I'm just gonna go G2 and Sen because it's Americas, and what else would you do? And I'm gonna say that Sen will win this stage. G2 at this point, I mean, obviously they did this in stage 1 where they went through the lowers and managed to beat Sen in the grand final, but again, I'm going to go Sen for this one, say that G2 don't do the full clean sweep. And you know what's funny about this pick'em is I hope that you're looking at this and saying, yeah, that's a fairly reasonable pick'em. You know, there's nothing too crazy that TMV has done there really with this pick'em. Do you know who would go to champs if this was the case? It would obviously be Sen and G2 because they're already going. It would also be NRG at this point. And the 4th team would be MIBR. This is an example of how MIBR get to champs. And you can really see here that it isn't actually that difficult for them. Really, all MIBR need is, in particular, if Lev start doing well, and they manage to get in the top 4, but not the top 2, then, like, congratulations, MIBR. You're going to champs. So we almost forgot to do the best and worst rounds of the week, so let me give them to you now. The best round of the week is going to be this one from G2, because I don't think I've ever seen anyone do this on Ascent before.
It really is here, and this is going to be hard cleared, it looks like, just tiptoeing around it. full awareness. Hold on, the smoke.
Whoa.
And it hides the intent of a few of these players. G2 slipped the net. Mitch is going to be realizing potentially there's a gap here, but he's still holding. Maybe doesn't even realize it himself.
This is designed to go back to B.
Crazy.
Does Mitch ever think about that?
I don't think he expects it. I think he's just missed the tiniest of gaps there.
That is a beautiful idea from G2.
Are they holding it towards backside? Looks like maybe the anticipation's there. Zephyr though, he's just tucked to the corner, holding tight at Mitch. He wasn't expecting it. It's back towards all these players. Zephyr spins and turns around with a flash to assist, but again, it was turned in time by these G2 players.
So that's the best round of the week, but the worst round of the week does need a bit of context, okay? It's RRQ T1. We're here on Haven. RRQ are on 12 rounds. T1 have all 5 of their ultimates, and RRQ are about to do a B exec. I just want you to notice T1's ult usage on this B exec from RRQ whilst they're on 12 rounds.
Looking for an op pick with a Cypher set up behind him, but B is open for the taking. Dart dealt with this time.
Does still get one little ping out with an on-position, trying to get the punish there, and Mondiad is just breaking wrists as he mows down stacks as well, trying to exit through the smoke. Media can only find one, and that now leaves Buzz and DH in a 2v4 with an operator in hand. DH swings but cannot get a transfer, and Buzz, his position is known. Shot goes wide. You hit that, maybe a window of opportunity, maybe you start believing.
He's going for it.
Well, he needs to at least to just be able to swap a weapon out. Check all the way out. Peeks back in. Think he had gotten a spot there onto one. Taps for the defuse now, and Xfero is in.